Interesting. A lot of scrolling, some spoiler tags. Look at this formatting. Alrighty. Making a number of changes to improve our characters, mitigate ailments, use Flasks, and build the defense of the characters. We're also adjusting the extreme power of auras and curses in parties, while improving the strength of these mechanics for builds with a smaller investment. I wonder if this is going to make self-found aura stacking more viable. Or even just in general, like solo aura stacking more viable. It's like they mentioned in parties and making it better with lower investment. So like that sounds like, you know, maybe aura stackers on the menu for less than 100 hours of playtime self-found. Oh, fuck. I love this. Massively buffing. This is one thing that's always been super annoying about playing Cold Dot and Fire Dot. Is like finding ways to, I mean, EEO is just free. It's Keystone, mandatory, 40% more damage, whatever. Yoink. Which means if you're not in that part of the tree, like trying to play like Cold Dot Raider or something, it can be very bad. But if you don't have to go to EO, maybe it's more viable with like some cluster setup, non-EO pathing. Without having to do like the High Scepter. In EE on like Cold Dot, super annoying. You have to, you know, use Stormbrand to proc it. Like EE has been one of the most overpowered keystones in the entire tree for like the entirety of the game. It's finally getting its getting slammed. They're probably not gonna buff specters. So I think this is also gonna be an indirect nerf to Triad Grips specters. And all minion builds that are not physical. Which is fine because physical is actually OP too. Like on low budget, my Spectre build does like 40% more damage with Pure Fizz compared to Triad Grips. The downside is to do that damage, you have to have Poacher's Mark on the target for the charges and the Fizz Pin. It's really hard to get Fizz Pin on Spectres. But this, like, I'm really excited for this. I really hope Fire Dot's good next patch. I want to play Fire Dot. Bounce Manifesto already. This is part 1 of the Manifesto. There's part 2 tomorrow, part 3 the day after. You're doing it early so that, you know, people can just ingest the information earlier and have a better idea of what to expect in the next patch. Part 1 covers ailments, mitigation, and Flask improvements, which is this. Part 2 is core defense and recovery. Part 3 is auras, curses, and elemental damage over time. Alrighty. We have some of this article as a set of identified problems and our intended solutions. Capitalized solutions. Oh shit, they mean business. Below each solution is a spoiler tag with the specifics of what we're currently intending to change. And yada yada yada, these things could change from what they're talked about now. Okay, so they don't like it the way Flask got nerfed. Solution is to introduce a large number of options that improve existing options for characters to deal with ailments. Should be able to pick between resurrection skills that mitigate ailments, remove effects directly with life and mana flask, gain immunity that costs you to. Ooh. I'm scared. Alright, specifics. Oh. So you can just give up an aura. Huh. The fuck? This is absurdly strong. I see it's 50%. 34 auras, immunity to ailments. And then you can get Watcher's Eyes that give Fizz conversion. Like, that's fucking insane. There's some builds that's like they don't have good auras. Like some builds obviously have like Hatred, Pride, really good stuff, Dread Banner, it's exceptional. Some builds don't. Also, isn't there a Purity of Elements neck from the Delve boss? But like this is insane for like early game defensive aura. Like there's like that's so like compare the value of this for 50% of your mana to Grace. Like that's so good. It means that no matter what, no matter where you're on the tree, no matter your build, if you choose, you can be like, fuck it, lose 20%, maybe 25% of my damage, and problem's gone. I am so surprised to see that. And Presence doesn't have it? No, not in Presence. It's called All's Uprising or some shit. Not from Elder, it's from It's from Delve. It makes certain auras free. Still skin grants immune to bleeding. But Corrupting Blood's not bleeding, right? Tempest Shield is now reservation and grants immunity to shock. So you get freeze and shock immunity from Tempest Shield. What's the number on Tempest Shield though? Tempest Shield. Why didn't they say the number? Is the number anywhere? I don't want to have to open 30 spoilers to find the number. Utility Flasks now have modifiers that grant immunity to damage during Flask effect, but less than the duration. Okay, so... Oh, 39% less. I mean, in general... I mean, I feel like Arctic Armor, it's probably... Wait, no, Tempest Shield, not Arctic Armor. So it's probably going to be 25%, right? I wonder if they're going to buff the block values of it. It's like 25% for shock immunity is like there's no world where you would use Tempest Shield plus Arctic Armor if they're both 25 instead of just using Purity of Elements. You would never do that. Because that doesn't give you chill or ignite immunity, so you're losing half, albeit the less important half. And also, this is all, which I think includes Brittle, Scorch, and Sap if you're doing like Delirium content or block builds. Yeah, but if it's like 3%, like if it's like 5%, like 6%, yeah, but like 3% was the kind of thing that like you used because it was a gem slot and it didn't reserve mana at all. It was free. And even on some block builds, I didn't use this because it was like a gem slot. A gem slot is a big investment. Like 3% block. But this is good. This is really good that there's these options. This one in particular, because getting freeze immunity, I don't know if they might talk about it later on, but like currently... What the fuck? Bride King can't be frozen too? Okay. So ailments are, there's like 1,000 ways to become immune to ailments now. Which is really good, because ailments fucking suck. Ailments are garbage. Like, you're just vibing, you're mapping, you get hit by an Ice Spear from a Goatman for 1k, you have 2k second leech, so you barely even feel it, but you're frozen for 1.2 seconds. Like, what the fuck? So this is good, that they're adding multiple different options for getting immunity to ailments. And it's great that their gear changes, right? Their gear changes, their gems. It's not just like, oh, added a cluster here on the skill tree, so you can invest more points into it. Because there's already so many things you need to put points to. This is great. I'm probably never gonna ever use Flask ailment immunity, ever, just because there's so many other options. Like fuck this, which is great because temporary ailment immunity is not ideal. Except. So one of my builds is a CI build that's not immune to shock, and it gets its ailment immunity from an instilling orb on a flask to proc whenever you get shocked. And I like that a lot for CI builds because I don't know about you guys, but I can't stand pianoing flasks when it's 5 flasks. Like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is like 1,000 times worse than 2, 3, 4, 5. So CI build, and then you just have a flask slot you never press that it just removes shock. Easy. New tiers of modifiers give me 3 element if the element is active, added life mana pots, providing up to 17 seconds. Holy shit. So you press that staunching life flask and there's no way you're getting blood again until that mob's dead. Ally contact to ground now grants. The term allied is like, I assume that just means friendly, like it's not from an enemy. So this means your own consecrated ground gives you this. Dude, Inquisitor stonks are rising. Super easy access to 100% reduced effect of curses. Ailments immunity is a lot easier to get. Inquisitor stonks are rising. Response to path clusters that provide elemental protection. Between the Templar and Witch, Asylum now grants chaos resist as well as protecting against curses instead of increasing consecrated ground effect. Okay, so never mind, it's not super easy to Oh no, it's as well. So it doesn't make your consecrated ground better, which was honestly, that was a pretty shit part of it. So now it gives you Chaos Res and Curse. That's really good. Inquisitor stocks are rising real fast. The Asylum is this thing up top. I wonder what POB I have open right now. Raider TR, okay. That's this. I've never expected it before, got added recently. But now it's going to give, what is this, 40% reduced effective curses? And instead of 20% effective consecrated ground, it's going to be Chaos Res. I assume it's going to be at least 25% for the whole cluster, which is going to make Inquis. It's going to be real nice. New cluster protecting poison, booting, and stun. Ooh. I wonder what they're going to do. Because stun is there's 3 different stats that they can give you. They're protecting stun. They can give you increased stun bot recovery, so your time spent stunned is shorter. They can give you increased stun threshold, which only exists in 2 spots in the entire game, but it effectively increases just the value your character has for your stun threshold, which is your max life. So if you have 10k life, if you have this node, your stun threshold is based off of you pretending to have 12k life. But that doesn't exist anywhere in the game except for Golems or Warrior's Blood. And they can also give you chance to avoid stun. So I wonder which option they're going to go with for that, because that's important. Poison and bleeding don't matter. Poison just does not, yeah, it's whatever. Unless you're tanking snakes from the Chaos Conqueror, it doesn't matter. And bleeding doesn't really matter for most spells either. This is a protection from stun, curses, critical protection. Ooh, that's huge. And ailments as well as more special mechanics like Cryptic Blood. I would love if there was a more reasonable path to getting crit reduction. Because right now, the only crit reduction on the entire tree that I know of is this node right here, right? And it's 20%. And there's Belt of the Deceiver gives you a little bit. No affinities give it, only this one node gives it. I would love for there to be more ways to get that. There's I think there's a Warlord influence mod on belts that has it too. There's Viridi's Veil, of course, can give it. But there's Banner. That's not kind of. That's reducing their crit chance by 30%. A mob with powerful crits, that would reduce their crit chance from 20% to 18.5%. But yeah, Assassin's good, but it's conditional. Slayer is good if they don't have powerful crits, because base mob crit multi in this game, including bosses, is 1.3. So this would make it so a Shaper Slam crit does not do more damage than a hit. But if they have powerful crits, instead they have 260 crit multi or some shit, and then they would have 230, so they would still fuck you up bad. The stat we need, the only stat that's consistent is this. Taking reduced extra damage from crits. If you could get that to 100% with reasonable investment, that'd be massive. There is a Pantheon for it, which is great. And I do play Solaris a lot. It's nice, but this still means you have to get crit once first. This is good if you're getting volleyed by a bunch of monsters around a diamond totem, but if you're getting crit by a boss mechanic or just a giant legion monster, you don't want that first hit to crit you. But Soul of Brine King just giving you freeze immunity is badass. 10% reduced imitation over time. And they removed the shock avoidance from Arakali. I mean, nobody plays Arakali ever, right? Debuffs and you expire faster. What does this mean? In actual real terms. Right now, there's still no chance that I would ever consider using this. And Lunaris wasn't changed at all. It's still just so good for mapping, but unless this is some build enabling mod for some trade league stuff that I'm not thinking of, for me and self-found with the builds that I play in Theorycraft, this is relevant to me. I don't even think this would be, it wouldn't even add. If you had 80% reduced effect of shock, or sorry, reduced duration of shock, and you had this 20%, that wouldn't make it 100%. I'm fairly certain. like a 5-second shock would become 1 second because of the 80%, and then it would become 0.8 because of this. So I think Air Kali still blows, except for like Righteous Fire builds. And what's the Slayer thing? The like the sword from Hillock? Maybe that, but I mean, this is a nice stat for some fights, for some scenarios. Like if you like Petrified Blood or something, and you're like really scared of degens because you're Petrified Blood and hate yourself, like this could be decent. Not the Petrified Blood dot itself, but like getting like Shaper Beamed or something when you're playing Petrified Blood because you have half the HP and no protection versus thoughts. Like maybe that's value. But damn, Brine King looking good. Looking real good. Like think about like Trickster. Like Trickster, I pretty much always play Brine King on it forever because they don't have real stun immunity, and every now and then you'll see Tricksters get killed by their ghost shards fall off and they get stunned and they die. And this solves the freeze immunity, which says like a CI build is a problem, but you also still need chill immunity as CI builds. But this is so nice. Like, God, the fucking ailment changes are great. Crit stuff. Like the crit stuff really is the biggest thing. And like imagine if they added a cluster that just gave you like 4% life, 4% life, 8% life, and like each point was like 20% reduced extra damage from crits. Like holy shit, it'd be so OP. They would never do that. Like that would be so OP, but my God. I think Period of Elements is good now. Period of Elements is an excellent like stepping stone aura. You probably wouldn't play this like forever on a build. Maybe in some builds you would, but like if you had like a Watcher's Eye for it. But like this just solves all of your early game ailment problems until you can get to those end game crafts. I haven't gotten very far into this yet. But assuming the Ashley mod still exists, where you can just get cannot be frozen and cannot be chilled on boots, like this is a great stepping stone until you get access to that. Plus like Crusader boots, Harvest enchants for like shock avoidance. So it's really good for like early game. But also, it probably won't be used that much. Because I mean, if you're not in Gauntlet mods, ailments like aren't that bad. Like they're just not. Like that's a pretty big investment for that in most cases. Making your minions and totems ailment immune. Yeah, totems are allies. This is true, but can't like for like minions have so much health. Their ailment threshold is so high that like they don't really have to deal with those problems. I guess Chilled Ground maybe fucks them up. Totems do have the problem, but I think there's a cluster duel notable where totems cannot have their action speed slowed or something. Yeah, I mean it's definitely a good aura for sure. Alrighty, and the Consecrated Ground stuff is huge too. Dude, Inquisitor is going up real fast. Alright, where are we at? Read that. Pantheon's Aberrath. No longer gets reduced fire damage while moving. Wait. I like that though. F. And this is like better if you're trying to fight like Enslaver or something and you're not actually immune to ignites. But I like this. This is nice. Especially for my Tempered by War POV. Soul Shikari. Damn. Dude, this is like almost as OP as the old Soul of Shikari, which was you cannot be poisoned. It just gave you full immunity. Like you can't have more than 3 poisons and they have half duration. Like fuck me, dude. Poison already on builds that have negative 60 chaos res. I don't care about the mechanic at all. And then they're gonna do this. Like fuck. And it still has the reduced chaos damage taken for Divine Flesh builds. Rallykish makes bleeding even less relevant than it already is. like actual bleeds in PoE are like, unless you're in a Vuln map or get Vulned, it's just like don't exist. It's like Corrupting Blood only that really matters. Alright, what does Eagle do? Chance to reflect hexes instead of chills and freezes. Oh, 50%? Damn. And it's more curse reduction? I mean, the reason they made this 30 is because of, it gives you an even 100%. Consecrated Ground, Nodes on the Tree, Ugle gives you an even 100% now. I'm kind of sad to see this though. Not like, this is obviously a good change, but because they're changing this, it means they're not actually fixing the problem with this stat. Reduce reflected damage is a really garbage stat, because if you get vulned, that like it just it removes this. If you have 120% reduction and you get vulned, you die to reflect. They need to change like the way this stat works to instead be the way this stat works. It should instead read, you have plus 50% to reflect damage multiplier. That way you can still add it up to 100%, and then once you actually hit 100%, you're actually immune. Because this stat, there's just so many random sources of increased damage taken in the game that most people don't know about. So you're running around with 100% reduction to reflect, that's cool. And then you say you're a cold build, you go into harvest, you're a cold build, you're immune to shock. Like, what could happen? You can't get vulned. Frostbomb and fucking Frostbite don't increase your damage taken by frost, they reduce your resist. So like, you'll be fine, right? No, you go into harvest, fucking Crush Claws give you a debuff that is increased cold damage taken, and now you die to reflect because like fucking the stat is garbage. They've got to fix this eventually. Yeah, or use the Cold Sextant. Yeah, like there's so many random sources of increased damage taken that should not work the way they do with this stat. But you can't just make it less, because if you made it less, then you could never reach 100% because they would all multiply. You have to use the plus number to chaos damage over time multiplier and use that for reflect. They'll do it one day, but not this patch, I guess. No, you fucker! This stat was so good. But also, this is way better. Like, yeah, they're like, this is like so weird. Like the last patch, they went to like all the ascendancies that gave good ailments, and then this patch, they're making ailments so easy to deal with. Like, you spec this, craft in your gloves, reduce effective shock and chill 25%, and 85% reduction. Like you're fine. And there's actually very few sources of increased shock damage, or increased effective shock. There's very few sources of that in the game. Like a lot of monsters use abilities like Arc that give like 20% increase, but like if you have like 120% reduced effect, you're pretty much fine. I haven't seen anything extra about crit yet. So they buffed Tugahama a little bit. I mean, Garukon is nuts. 60%. Small. Eagle's great too. 30% reduced curse effect. Small Pantheons are a lot better now. I mean, ailments weren't really that scary last league either. It took longer to invest into getting immunity to them. But like, on pretty much any character in the game that was like top left, if it was like a caster, you just like spec Ash Frost and Storm, spec in these 3 points, 1 Glovecraft, and then 1 Bootcraft, and you're good to go. Before you get to Bootcraft, Arctic Armor. I mean, the thing is, if you're already like on this node naturally, like these 3 points are fine. Like 10 all res, 1 max res, and it gets you half reduction to shock. Add in the Garukon, you're good to go. Yeah, don't worry. All these nerfs to ailments and stuff is not actually going to change the constant QQing about monsters doing too much damage. The failed modifier and body armor that grants 25 to 30 now grants 30 to 35. This is backpedaling. Like, all of the stuff up here, these changes they're all like things that come with like severe trade-offs. You only get one Pantheon, auras are huge. This is just straight backpedaling. This is like, okay, because whatever psychopath typed in the number 18, that's fucked up. It was really fucked up. Like, trying to somehow make this useful, there was like one way to do it, right? There was one way to make 18 like not be garbage. It was, you had 18 on boots, 18 on shield, which gave you 36. And then you didn't path Crystal Skin, you anointed it, which puts you at 51. And then Thick Skin puts you at 71, and the chest craft put you at 101. But like every other combination of trying to get your avoid ailments to be capped, this number just fucked you so hard. Instead of being 20. If it was 20, it'd be like so much easier. But so back to 25. This is back to 35, which puts you. So the options on the table again. However, they didn't move the slots, so this is still boots and shield. But this buff is massive for sure. 40% reduce effect. Before you could get 25 on both gloves and boots with this craft. Now you can get 40. They didn't change the stun craft. I mean, they changed the betrayal stun craft on the chest, but gloves and helm currently have a craft where it's 21 to 25 reduce effect or chance to avoid stun. They didn't buff that. I wish they did. Because currently to get stun cap, you have to use like the typical way you do it is helm craft, glove craft, betrayal chest craft plus Heart of Oak pathing or arcane swiftness. Like that's a typical way. But yeah, there's going to be so many ways. If it's effect and you don't 100%, correct. Kind of, but you still want at least 100%. Because if you have like 80% reduction and you're doing like a shock ground map, like that's still 10% increased damage taken. Like, why not just get 100%? But yeah, and there are sources of increased effective ailments on you. I don't know all of them because, you know, I'm not a fucking Wikipedia for this game, but I know Delirium has some sort of thing that makes you have increased effective ailments on you. I don't know where it is or what causes it, but I know it exists. So that's why, like, if you have the option, you always want to go with Avoid instead of Reduced Effect. And these buffs, again, are going to make it very reasonable for any character, no matter what, to always get Avoid ailments if you choose to. Which is nice. Because it sucked when there were certain scenarios where, like, it felt bad. Like, the solutions to ailments immunity could feel bad. These will never feel bad. It's 3 craftsling gear plus an anoint, or 3 craftsling gear and like 1 small cluster. So this is good. What do we got here? Following new crafting modifiers. Ooh. This is the kind of thing that would have been interesting if it wasn't this patch, because, you know, all of these changes up here already solve ailments, so that it's, you know, if you want to solve it, you can. But this is like, it lets you like ignore freeze if all you care about is like being able to like press flame dash still. Of course, you do that, just be immune. And this is nice, so it's not only Crusader. I wonder if they're gonna update the influence mods. Like, there's some scenarios where like the crafted mod is like better than the influence mods. But this is really good. These are all such good changes. Oh, it's duration too. Fuck yes. I'm so glad they did this, because chance to avoid ignite is like so garbage if you're not capped. Because you get ignited, it lasts 5 seconds, and then you're ignited. This is like such a better thing. But it's reduced, not less. And certain monsters might have a lot of increase. Ailments done in curse mitigation. So these crafts come from Bazaar and Siege. So what's the curses? 25% from here. Dude, the Maven mod on chess pieces that has consecrated ground around you all stationary, plus the effects linger for 2 seconds. That mod is gonna have way higher value, because Consecrated Ground gives you 50% reduce the curses on you, and then you can get this 25 here plus 30 from a Pantheon. Reduce duration means same damage in less time. I don't think it does. Because like up here you have increased ignite duration. This doesn't make your ignite deal less DPS. It just makes it last longer. It's different than expire faster. Rank 2 attributes. Oh shit. They're moving my crafts around. This is the Ascent in Act 4. I don't care about that. Damn! Previously you had to get the maps for the first tier of this, now you get it in Act 4? Fuck me, dude. Yeah, if you want to be immune to ailment, like, you're gonna be immune. Real early. The new belt crafting options along with other reduced damage over time crafting options. Oh, is that the chaos damage over time? That doesn't really matter that much. I mean, it's a decent craft, but I'm gonna assume with the suffix and like, would you really ever take this over just like 15 dual res? Like Chaos Fire? Like, probably not. Unless you're fighting like some new endgame boss that just has insane poisons, but the only like huge chaos dot in this game is like zombies and delve, and I think the bestiary spider boss has big chaos dot. Conquer influence, Cyrus influence, Alhazmin, Toxic Rain monsters, Tora Toxic Rain, but like Tora Toxic Rain hits hard as fuck too. So like you need, I'd rather have 15 base chaos res always. Chaos dot res cap, yeah, 75. It's the same. Chance to roll. Oh, I wonder if this fucks up any crafting options. Because they added extra avoid, or added extra fire, cold, lightning services on shields. That's cool. Tier 1 chance to avoid elements can now go up to 35. Damn, that's a big number. Oh, and they did buff the influence mods that I talked about a few minutes ago. They can get 60 avoid shock instead of 45. The Maven mod was 60, but you can get 60 here plus 40 crafted on there. Like, God, it's gonna be so easy to get full avoiding elements now. That's great. But now I'm looking for the crit changes. Like all the avoiding element stuff, like shit, dude, like I get it, it's solved. Now I'm looking for these crit changes they talked about. And this is, wait, why is it 15? This goes to 20% on a, oh no, it's effect. So Abyss Jewels roll a chance to avoid 20%. And then these can roll effect of curses. Ooh, a buff to Brutal Restraint, that's nice. I wonder if they also buffed the, nope, they didn't buff the other version. Because there's a chance to avoid of some other things on the other jewels, but they didn't. That's cool. Buffed Elegant Form by a little bit. No! No! My jewel corruptions are harder now. There's an extra fucking 7 possibilities. Oh, my CB immunity. I mean, aren't they gonna remove CB immunity from jewels eventually? I thought they said they were gonna do that. Oh, the harvest things got buffed? That's massive. I didn't think they'd ever do that. They buffed Harvest, guys. Harvest is buffed this patch. What the hell is Conqueror's Longevity? I've never even read this one before. I know what the other ones do, potency and efficiency. I have no clue what this one does. Buffed Kikizara a little bit, something out of though. You'd never use Kikizara with the ring crafts in the game now. Alright, on to Flasks. So basically they're gonna change it so life and mana flask. I wonder one small thing about this. Maybe it'll be answered here. Grouping modifiers from life and mana flask, add the following modifiers. Ender. Yo, that's a toxic rain buff right there. And a storm rain buff. Anything where you need things to be slower. Immunity to hinder, immunity to maim. Yeah, those are mechanics. Cover. Ooh. That's just like. Oh, never mind. I read that wrong. Is this like super OP? So I assume life recovery would mean. Like, would this last once the flask falls off? I think it would. No, it's not 4% regen. It's 40% of the life recovery rate of the flask. No, they're not going to remove fucking soothing and bubbling. There's no way. These are all suffixes, I assume. But the one thing that I'm not sure about... No, I don't think it's a typo. This basically means, like, my interpretation of this is if your flask gives you 1,000 life per second, then this would give you 400 life per second for 10 seconds if you use it. When you're not full life. So you can't just press it and just get the buff, you have to like take damage and then press it. But like you couldn't use it in combination with like a seething pot because seething pots don't have recovery. So I don't know. I'm not sure about that one. But one thing that I don't hope they don't change is there's this craft here. I like this craft a lot on mana pots. And it's a during flask effect craft. I hope that'll still work on mana pots in the future. Yep, I bitched about this a lot. Replace the modifier in flask with only gets immunity to distance duration. Base duration on utility have been increased. Oh shit, how long are they? Yeah, there's never a scenario when I would ever use any of these crafts. Not with the other changes to ailments. Utility flasks are sustainable enough to carry damage and clear speed. Aren't easy ways to sustain utility flasks for less powerful characters. Oh. What the fuck? Like, what is this solution gonna be? Oh, that. Yeah, that'll do it. Make the flask worse, but make it way easier to keep it always up. That's really good. For when your build's bad. But wait, if it's a prefix, it's competing with Perpetual, which is already 40%, right? Alright, extending duration. Quicksilver, Diamond, Granite, Jade, Quartz, Silver, now lasts 6. These last 8. I don't care about these last. Bismuth, Wise Oak buffs. I wonder if they'll nerf Wise Oak because of this, and Taste of Fate. Taste of Fate is already fucking absurd. Oh yeah. Dying Sun, Coruscating Bottle Faith. Wait, did they nerf Sulfur duration? They buffed it. Oh, that's reduced versus increased. God, Flasks are gonna be so easy to keep up again. But in a good way. Like, increasing the duration of Flasks is like the best way to have them be up forever. Because it means you have to piano way less often. Like with this duration, if you roll like experimenters. Oh shit. Silver is now the same duration as Quicksilver as well. I wonder if that means they're going to change the charge requirement. Because the way this worked in the past is Silver and Sulfur and like Basalt, the 40 of 60s lasted 0.8 seconds longer. So like this was 4 and then these were 4.8. But they required 10 more Flask charges. I wonder if they're going to change this to a 30 of 60. I wish this was 30 of 60. God, it'd be so nice. But yeah, if you roll like experimenters on these with quality, like your Flasks are gonna last 10 seconds. Like God, the piano is gonna be so nice, so much nicer. Added an improved Flask investment in the dexterity. Why? What does this mean? If I'm in the dexterity area of the tree, I literally have 5 different clusters I can spec that are all fucking amazing for Flask sustain. Put them somewhere else. What if I'm a Templar? Do I have to hate myself? Even after lowering the power of many unique flasks in 15, unique flasks still cost most magic utility flasks. I mean, that's supposed to happen, right? Like that's why Taste of Fate is better than Sapphire Flask, because it has unique modifiers. Okay, sure, we can call that a problem. And if you're using Betrayal Crafts, it's like not even the case a lot of the time. Like Betrayal Crafts are fucking OP, dude. Look at these things. Like you can just get 50 avoid stun, you can get 60 crit, you can get 3 regen. Betrayal Crafts are OP. Added tiers to Flask modifiers, a higher level Flask now with much more powerful effects. Much more powerful. These inverse nerfs are fucking weird. I don't know how I feel about them. Okay. Oh, that's a lot to read. Alright. Reduced effect of chill and shock. And curses. I level 84 Flasks. Interesting. At least in hardcore, I would still never rely on this modifier. Like, I would never run a map with vulnerability on it and be like, oh, I have this, so it's safe, right? I guess I used to do that with warding. Maybe I would. And why is it 65? Doesn't the Pantheon give 30? 95? Yeah, I see you. I see you. I know what you're doing. But I guess if you have what, like 10% increase effective Flasks, that would make this 70. I think you get from like, yeah, this is 10 effect. They added all of these that I will never use. 14% movement speed on Adrenaline. That's good enough to be worth a Flask slot again, most likely. Especially because you're not going to need avoiding ailments on Flask ever. This is actually really good. This is really good, for sure. I'm a big fan of this. I think this will make it into most things. Only level 85. Yeah, Quicksilvers are pretty rare. Getting 85 Quicksilver is gonna be a little bit of a bitch. It'll happen eventually though. If you just grind T16s, you're grinding in-game content, you get the occasional plus on Watchstone. Oh, isn't that card I level 100? Quicksilver of Adrenaline? That's huge. And that div card's not super rare. I'm pretty certain I complete that with stack decks like every single league. And these don't matter at all. These don't matter. Oh, so this is no longer Betrayal only. You can just roll it. But I can just craft 60, so fuck that. This goes to 45. I can just craft 50. So unless they nerf the Betrayal crafts, these are just better. 17 attack and cast speed. Dude, Flasks are gonna be nuts again. Pathfinder, maybe? No. Dude, rolling Flasks. Wait, what? Is there an ICD on this? You tank an Awakener Beam and you just get all your Flasks back? Like, what the fuck? There's gotta be a cooldown on this, right? It's 1 second? I mean, that's still like, that's nuts. Which is really not, I mean, so the way Flasks work right now for bossing is if you do your due diligence and you get your harvest crafts ready, so you have like the really good enchants, you don't run out of Flasks on boss fights, usually. So like this is kind of whatever. But it means you don't have to, you know, store fucking 8 harvest crafts. 80 block and stun avoid. 35 max charges ample is like really huge for certain Flasks to get breakpoints for extra uses. $66. I don't see perpetual. Yo. Am I blind? It's 4 lines up? Oh, yeah, okay. I am blind. Also, this number is not high enough, right? Like 16% increased for that downside. This should be like 100. Buffing Panic Life Flasks. Panic Flasks are insane if you're playing a Petrified Blood build. Isn't this the current tier 1 of Seething? Level 7, so I think this means Seething is not being changed. Because it's level 7, and the rest of them are all level 80. That's not changing. 1 tier only of Seething, which is good. It's fucking 17 seconds of immunity. That's so badass. Like that's strong enough that you could do like shock ground maps with like a Seething life pot of grounding, and you just step on the shock ground, press it, and then you're vibing for like a third of the map. Warding still sucks, but it's fine because we have better ways to get rid of curses. Like, why is warding even in the game? Like, I would never use warding over, like, just getting actual 100% reduce effect. The Hinder mods are pretty cool. Maim is irrelevant. Animation got buffed, but I don't think anyone ever uses this anyways. And this one is weird. Okay. Problem. Interesting. They're buffing and kindling. This might mean that harvest enchants are irrelevant. I think it does. So harvest was 50%. Now this is 70. This doesn't matter. You would never use this except for on sulfur flasks, Star of the Divine. This still sucks. Harvest is 50%. This still sucks. Harvest is 100 charges. And I think this is better than harvest. So if you're going for 100 max charges Seething flasks, I guess it doesn't really matter for Seething because for life flasks you can't use enkindlings on them anyways. You can only use harvest on those. But then for like utility flasks, like honestly, like 100% increased duration on like an Experimenter's Sapphire flask, it's gonna last how long? Like 8 seconds plus 120%. It's not like 20 seconds. Harvest is for 1 boss? Nah. Plus 100 max charges mean lose 1 charge per use. You're not using your flask 100 times in a boss fight. Yeah. These mods are permanent, but if you're like fighting hard bosses that you're scared of, you're gonna go in with harvest crafts instead of some of these. The duration one is really good though. Like 100% duration in combination with the buff to base flash duration, which is in one of these spoilers that I don't know where it is, means that if you're fighting like Shaper, you can just go in there with this on your Sapphire Flask, and your Sapphire Flask lasts for 20 seconds. But then again, when I do Shaper, I don't use duration, I use effect. And this is a really good buff. So for Shaper balls, his balls have pen. Pen hurts. So whenever you're ending a bullet hell phase of Shaper, one thing that's great is you press a Sapphire Flask with the increased effect enchant, with the prefix that also gives increased effect, and then you get 40% less damage taken from cold. So when you flame dash out of the Shaper bubble to dodge the beam, if you get hit by a ball, you have 40% reduced damage taken, which is nice. So that's cool. Glad these are being buffed. Belts with the item slot intended to enhance Flasks, but only have a limited list of modifiers. Ooh, add more tiers, okay. Okay. Holy shit. So they didn't buff reduced charges used. But god damn. Flasks will never fall off ever again. Unfortunately, they didn't revert Adrenaline back to full power. Y'all know, like, if you ever log onto a character that has a Adrenaline Flask from last patch, like, that shit's wild. Like, look at this character. Look how slow I am. And then I use a Flask, and I'm just like Usain Bolt. And now the new Flask doesn't do shit. It's so bad compared to that. Now you smoke mine too? Fuck off, man. You can get 108% reduced charges used now. Why? What changed aside from these two? Was it one of the mods up here? Did Chemist get buffed? Oh, this is 28 and it used to be 20. Okay. That in combination with this. So your Flasks don't use charges anymore? That means Worm Blast has got to be coming back somehow, right? Right? Somehow? Belt modifiers, already saw that. Keep the total recovery from all life lost the same, but half the amount of time is for this to occur. Oh. Wait, they're actually gonna nerf this? Dude, this Flask has always been total garbage. It's literally never been good for a single second in its entire existence. And they're nerfing it when they're buffing these. Basically, Flasks are gonna feel less shit if they're not instant. You're still gonna use instant Flask though, so. But that's like, this is a really good early game change. Assuming this affects all Flasks, like your Act 1, Act 2, like before you have instant pots, this is gonna be way better. There are no accessible tools for a player to change their charge gain method if gain charges on kill isn't well suited for their slower playstyle. I mean, technically that problem was fixed up here. With Flagellants giving you 7 fucking charges when you're hit. So this is the Act 2 quest. They're gonna change the jewels from that 2 quest to give you... Currently the bonuses they give are like not relevant. And they're gonna make it so you can get charges another way. But like... You have Flagellants for when you get hit, you have Surgeons for when you crit. Like, there are already ways to get charges if you're not killing things. You have Pathfinder, you have Scion. I wonder what this is going to be. mean, it sounds like it's gonna be like just better, like jewels that you might use for bossing. Something like you get half the amount of flash charges from kills, but you like get one flash charge per hit with like a cooldown. That'll be interesting. Shouldn't rely on ascendancy or getting hit. So you shouldn't rely on ascendancy or getting hit or critting yourself. You should just have flasks always, forever, or killing things. You just shouldn't have to do anything. You should just always have flasks. I don't know about that. There's already 5 different ways you can get flasks. Rangers don't have a form of life recovery they excel at. Oh shit. Add new and improve existing passive skills, especially in the recovery of charges for life and mana flasks, as well as life recovery from flasks in the ranger section. That already exists. But they're gonna buff it, I guess. Which is nice. It's like, this is really weird because like, you know, like Ranger already has the best flasks by a lot. Like when you have like, when you have these nodes plus Raslata, if you seething on low HP, it's like a 3000 health seething. It's so much life. But if you want to make it 5k, like fuck it, why not? Ooh. Mana on hit with attacks if you use a mana flask in less than 10 seconds. And these are not conditional. The mod you can roll on flasks up top, you had to use the flask and not be full HP. These are just use the flask. I wonder what the numbers are going to be. So the way they describe this to the ranger starting area makes it sound like it's going to be something you just have for free. Like it's just going to like be like on like a standard pathing point, like on herbalism or like on Heart of Oak or like one of these 2 nodes or something. It's going to be like a very, very small investment. Like this part is really interesting because most attack builds, if you're already using a mana flask, don't have mana problems. It's possible. It's very possible if you have like insane attack speed or if you're using like Headhunter. But typically if you're playing one of those builds, you would rather go for making your skill free via jewelry crafts and replica conks. And if our problems on TR, this mana gain on hit is a worthless stat for TR because of the way TR works with duration. Like, TR doesn't hit until after the pods explode. Or that's when the majority of hits happen, so it's like 2.5 seconds after you attack is when you start getting the mana gain on hit. In that time period, you've already attacked 11 times, 12 times, so you can't really rely on it. But TR, all the problems of TR, up to like 6 attacks per second, are solved with these 2 points right here. And then if you're going past 6 per second, you do some ring crafts, some minus mana cost ring crafts. Like there's already solutions to solving these problems, but more solutions is always cool, I guess. TLDR of the reaction. Ailments are going to be so fucking easy to solve now. There's so many ways to do it, and that's great. The flask stuff is cool. It means like the way they're making flasks have a longer duration instead of like having increased charge recovery means I have to piano it less often. I'm still gonna piano flask because that's still the correct way to use flask and always will be. But like higher duration of flask is great. They mentioned up here talks of crit, but there was no actual sources for that. Consecrated ground stuff, Inquisitor stonks, rising for sure. That's a TLDR. But this right here. New sources of protection from stun, curses, crit, and ailments as a rebalance to the path tree. And they didn't actually... So they talked about the specifics of where they added stun nodes, right? They added stun nodes here. They added, you know, curse nodes and chaos nodes here. They talked about all the changes to ailments. but nowhere do they actually mention a single thing about crit. Except for this exact line, but hopefully it means there's more things like this. I want a nice little cluster that gives me like 50% reduced extra damage from crits, along with like something else useful. That'd be so nice to have. But the changes to elements are going to free up a lot of gear slots and make a lot more, builds a bit more viable. And the changes to EE that they mentioned up here, I assume you've already read this, but like, this is nice. Last Deflect Crit Avoid coming through. I don't like Last Deflect Crit Avoid. I think it's, I mean, it's cool, but I think that this, I know this stat also exists in Last Deflect, but it's called this instead of called Crit Avoidance. But like Crit Avoidance, I don't like, because if you don't have 100%, you don't have any percent. As long as it's possible to be crit, it doesn't matter what your chance to avoid it is. Oh, you have a 94% chance to avoid the Shaper Slam? Guess what? You're fucking dead, always. That's how it works. So, like, whereas this stat is, if you get crit, it works. Guaranteed no matter what. So I really want more of this stat in the game. Like, right now, there's this node, there's Belt of the Deceiver, there's a mod on, like, Shaper Belts or Whirler Belts, and that's, like, it. It's the same with the Avoid Elements, though. It is. But the thing is, when you get, like, shocked, so, like, when I played the Gauntlet, I spec'd these nodes super early, like, very early, even when it didn't put me to 100%. Because, and then you just still use a grounding pot, you still use a heat pot. And just reducing the chance of being frozen by 90% kind of makes it so you never get frozen, because freeze is so unlikely in the first place. But you basically just like spec this as like a supplement, but you still use your other solutions, your grounding pot, your heat pot. When it comes to crit avoidance, like, your solution to getting crit is to like do this right here. And that's not how I'm trying to play the game, you know? My solution to getting frozen is to press my heat pot. Yeah, Zai, I've ranted about that being a problem as well. But there are not that many sources of like increased effective availments in the game. Like, Cyrus has increased effective chill, not shock. He has shock duration. But he has 200% increased effective chill. All monsters that use arc have, you know, the standard like 20% increased effective of shock from that. So it'd be great if they worked on that, and also worked on it similarly for the reflect problem. I've ranted about the reflect problem enough today. Of like, you basically need this stat to be like, if you're immune to curses and you're immune to shock, like, you still want the stat to be like 150% to actually feel safe. Yeah, good luck with that, Sai. But that was a pretty good part one. I really wonder what these are going to be. I mean, either way, I'm so fucking excited to be able to play a Fire Dot again. I hope I can. Can it be a more or less multiplier? No. Because if you change this to less instead of reduced, you can't stack it to 100%. So the first 15 would give you 15, the next 15 would give you 15% of that 85%. The next 30 would give you a 30% reduction to that fucking whatever number. But basically, you could never actually become immune if they were all independent less multipliers. But thankfully, there's a stat in the game that already exists that allows you to have a number that you can add to another number and then multiply. And they could just do that, and then it'd work. But this could be really good. This could be so good. I mean, in reality, unless they make Elemental Overload just simply not work on Cold Dot and Fire Dot, you're probably still going to always spec it. But if they just like nerf EO, but the thing is that they can't. They can't just nerf EO because EO already sucks for hit-based builds. It's like a stepping stone. So they're probably just going to have to convert EO into hits only. And the equilibrium stuff is great because EE is like, but yeah. This is almost certainly going to result in a nerf to minions, which is fine. Because minions are OP. But I'm really excited about these possibilities. Yeah, same. It's a mechanic that's like, it's just so powerful. But it's like tedious. Also, I don't know about, so like, like these changes with TE have like a lot of consequences to a lot of builds. Like it's not just minion builds, right? Like any like Trinity, like Wild Strike or Elemental Hit build that changes their damage to every attack instead of using the jewels are getting fucked by this. Minion builds, fire dot builds, cold dot builds. There's like a lot of different archetypes that are going to be affected by this. Anyone that was psycho enough to use the ring from Ziggy D. Thankfully, that's like 6 people. Like, you know, fuck them. But I mean, you're confused about the aura line? The aura line is not very specific, but it's just up to your interpretation, right? We're adjusting the extreme power of auras and curses in parties. This very clearly means they're going to nerf auras and curses in party play, which is good. It's been like since the inception of the game, playing in a party with an aura bot and a curse bot has always been the technically correct way to play. That's never not been true. Even if they removed aura and curse classes entirely, just deleted them, it still would be like auras and curses would still be absurdly fucking powerful in party play. But this line means that it, like maybe they try to nerf it in a way that only nerfs the party aspect of it, but does not nerf the solo aura stacker aspect, because solo aura stacker is not actually like really OP. It's like it requires huge investment to pay off in Trade League. It takes like hundreds of hours of grinding in the current version of Harvest to like become really good in Self-Found. Like it takes a lot of fucking time and effort. So if you just like globally nerf like auras and curses altogether, that would be very bad. I don't think they're gonna do that. We'll see what they do. Maybe by number of people in the instance. I mean, like, it's gotten to a point where it would need to be like your auras just are like 90% less strong to your allies. But like that's lame. Why not some auras and debuffs to only work on one individual? I don't think they want to delete the idea of auras from the game. I don't think they want to do that. But the current state of auras, where you can make a character literally do hundreds of times more damage, is not ideal either. Because if it's true that they actually do balance around softcore trade, and softcore trade is where 90% of players like play the game, right? Having all content in that league be literally irrelevant from the moment it's created, because you can one-shot it and be invulnerable by playing with an aura stacker, it's like, that's kind of lame.